Okay. Hey, guys. This is Sean DeGray. Nobody knows who that is, but it's me.
And you are listening to
The Gritty Bowmen.
It's all in perspective, right? If you could make $150,000 a year, but you had to work 80 hours a week and you were committed to a corporation that you hated what you did, is that more lucrative than making $70,000 a year doing what you love with a lot of free time? And who's richer?
One of the things I never want to say, and I even think this with life, is I never want to say, like, what if? Like, what? I hate that. I hate that feeling. What if I would have done this? Or what if I would have just tried this? Or what if? What if? And there's very few things that I say what if about. Very few things. And that gives me a lot of peace of mind. So that helps give me drive, because I don't want to ever say what if.
Randy always says this, you're going to run out of health before you run out of money.
I'm a little overbowed right now, if you could not tell from the video.
I like the design of the riser more than anything else.
So Aaron's like, yeah, just get the 80-pound. We've been traveling, the bow goes on the plane, the bow gets dropped, the bow hits the dirt, now and then. And there's something about having this thing dried fired so many times and like beat up that is really comforting when I'm out there. Dude, it's a Hoyt.
Yep.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. I am in Salt Lake City, Utah at Hoyt Headquarters, and I am joined by Evan Williams.
How's it going, guys?
Who is apparently going to throw some dirt on Aaron while we're here.
You know it.
Aaron Snyder.
So he gets to be out and play, so we get to play with him a little bit.
So you've known Aaron for how long?
I was in Colorado 8 years, so it's been almost 9 years that we've known each other now.
Wow.
So, and then I had a small stint at Kafaru, so I did get to work with him a little bit when he, of course, was in the office, which is not very often.
Which suits me fine.
Right.
And we got Mike Luper.
Yep. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Appreciate it. We're excited.
And your role at Hoyt is?
Yeah, I'm Vice President of Global Marketing and International Sales.
All right.
Yeah.
The big dog.
No.
Yeah.
He's the big dog. No. Vice President.
Mr. Big Pants over
VP
there.
of Janitorial is what they call
and Jeremy Eldridge.
Yep.
And we had Jeremy on before in an earlier episode of the podcast.
Yep.
And Jeremy, what's your role?
I'm the marketing manager.
Okay.
So Mike sets the direction, and then I help him get it done.
Execute, baby.
Yeah.
He's the executor.
And Evan, your role?
So I'm the pro staff manager.
Okay.
So, yep.
So you guys just launched the 2017 Hoyt Pro Defiant.
Yep.
And so I wanted to come down here and do a podcast about this new bow and what is what you guys love about it and so on. So that said, just jump right into it. Tell me about the bows.
Well, first of all,
global marketing.
Yeah. I get excited to talk about the bows. But yeah, we did. We just launched the new Pro Defiant. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, it's the baddest, most wicked looking bow aluminum bow we've ever put into market.
Yep.
From first looks, you immediately can see that it's completely different than most things we've ever put out in the market. So from that standpoint, it's really, really cool. Our engineers spent a long time just in development and obviously spent a lot of time in research and development on riser stiffness, flex patterns, things like that. So although the bow looks really cool and shoots amazing, obviously there's a lot of science behind it, engineering behind the actual structure of the riser. So this is the stiffest riser we've ever designed, our engineers have ever designed, with specific flex patterns to maximize accuracy and forgiveness. So anyway, again, I'm just super stoked with where this bow turned out. Real excited, and they're already at dealers. They hit dealers a day after our launch. So the cool thing is some of you may be already out shooting the bow and experiencing it for yourself and just how good the bow feels. So really excited about that overall. Obviously it has the all the other technology that Hoyt is known for, and from cam to cam, pocket to pocket, it's just packed with our technology. So we can walk through that as well if you'd like. But
yeah, Evan, what do you like about this bow?
I like the design of the riser more than anything else. One being super, super stiff. The guys that have ever had an issue with an aluminum riser that doesn't have the stiffness, strength that we produce, especially with the 1500 dry fires, I've seen a lot that over time, when you have less material in a riser, especially in aluminum, it will actually start manipulating and forming to a consistent pattern over time, which can lead to basically the top part of the riser will actually stay in a fixed position, where I've actually come to full draw on some bows and let them down and handed them back to a customer when I was in a shop and said, your riser is bent. It has so much torque on it that they have cut enough weight off and out of the material to lighten the bow up that this bow won't shoot, it won't tune, it won't group. You're going to have nothing but problems with it. And as a safety, we aren't going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So having that stiffness built into the riser right out of the gate is just something that we're known for, and that I'm super stoked to have in this bow this year.
Aaron and I just got back from Alberta, but we've been traveling. The bow goes on the plane, the bow gets dropped, the bow hits the dirt, now and then, and there's something about having this thing dried fired so many times and like beat up that is really comforting when I'm out there. It's like, dude, it's a Hoyt.
Yep.
I can beat that
and
crap out of
I
this.
saw how far you guys were crawling too, and you're hitting that thing in the dirt, body weight on it, it stands up.
I really beat it up, and it it just stays tuned. It stays reliable. So
and we had a guy this year contact us through social media, and he was out working the farm and took his bow with him, set it down in the grass, went to go do some more work, and ran it over with his tractor. And this isn't a little John Deere. This is a dually rear axle suspension that just is probably weighing 10 to 12 tons and is running over a carbon bow. I've got a buddy that is in Czech Republic now, and he came back a couple years ago for a hunt and watched his bag come off the plane in Colorado Springs, get put on the baggage tram, and actually fell off and was run over by the entire baggage cart. Destroyed the case, pulled it out. We replaced the strings because it cut the strings, and we were up and hunting the next day. Yeah. So
the other thing that that I've really appreciated with the toughness of the bows. So for those of us that hunt the backcountry, the bow also becomes a walking stick. And in some cases, when you're climbing steep mountains,
you're falling down, dude.
Yeah, big time. And you're
heavy packs
climbing steep climbs. I was hunting the backcountry of Idaho last year, and literally my bow, I was just putting it in front of me, almost like an ice pick to try to get up, the rock and shell. And to have a bow that you can rely on for that. Even like our string grooves, if you look at the string grooves on a Hoyt cam, they're beefier than a lot of bows out there because of those reasons. If you put your bow in the rocks or in the dirt, you're not going to bend that. A bent string groove can be, terrible to ruin a hunt.
So on that note, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but
we've all been there.
Yeah, I was at Bear Creek shooting bows down there at the park in Colorado, and my string loop was, it's old, it's feeling.
When you see the core of the material, we need it replaced.
Right. And I tell Aaron, he's standing right next to me. I'm like, Aaron, I probably should replace this, and he's like, in classic Aaron fashion, he's like on his phone doing something. He's like, yeah, you probably should. He's back, right? And so I'm like,
I got one more
it's
hunt.
Not that bad, right? Though, and I go to pull back, and just right after we have that conversation, I get the bow back, and I'm about to, I'm not quite all the way back. I'm still in the middle of the draw, and snap. And, I'm not gripping the bow tight or anything, so the arrow goes, out there, and the bow just it just hits the ground right on the cam. Bam! And then bounces and falls down, and I'm like, and I leave for Alberta like the next day. And this kind of like once in a lifetime kind of mule deer hunt. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And I'm expecting to see. It's all rocky and it's dirt. Some concrete. I'm expecting to see the cam bent and
talk it over a little bit.
And I'm just going to be like totally hosed, and I'm frustrated. And Aaron sees it hit the ground. He's like, "Oh snap!" And then he's like, and then he goes, "It's a Hoyt though." And so then I picked it up and I'm checking it out, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this." And he's like, "Yeah, man, they're built tough. They are." And he's been shooting Hoyt for a long time. He's a gear junkie, so he likes to try out new equipment all the time, but he always seems to have come back to Hoyt. And that's the thing is it really took that beating. I picked it up, shot. We put a new loop on it, shot, and it was fine.
But it's those
surprised
details.
me because my buddy had a different bow manufacturer, barely, like you said, climbing the hill, slipped, hit the cam, bent that, and now it's cutting the string every time he drew the bow.
Yeah. And those are those details that a lot of people overlook, but that is a specific detail that we think about or that our engineers focus on are all those little details because there's a lot of cams out there that are razor thin. Right? I mean, it's razor thin because obviously the lighter your cam is, the faster you can shoot a bow as well. So it's combining all those elements where you still get the speed, but you also have the durability. The other area that I just really can't say enough about, and it's probably the most important, most critical component of a bow is where the riser and the limbs connect through the pocket. Mm-hmm. That is a hypercritical connection point for accuracy and consistency. And I mean, our limb pockets are bulletproof, and they're zero tolerance pockets. The way that they come together. And same thing when you're climbing up a mountain or falling down a mountain or whatever. I mean, that limb pocket is just taking a beating, and there can be so much shifting that can happen in a pocket that can just destroy the accuracy and consistency of a bow.
Describe that to me. Like, what do you mean by limb pocket, and what do you mean by how it would fail on you?
Yeah. So in a lot of cases, so this limb is specifically designed to fit in this pocket with several different pinch points, right? So when this limb goes in this pocket, it's connected on both sides right here. This is the pocket. Exactly. So as this limb enters this pocket, you see it's got connection points on both sides where it's pinched together. Then you got this connection point right up here that's a zero tolerance connection point where the limbs are hitting against the pocket again, up above the entry section of the limb to the pocket. And then the limbs are pinched together on the rear end here to where everything has a zero tolerance fit all the way through the structure, all the way through the limb and riser.
So you can't shift.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what you don't want to have happen. If it shifts at all, if it shifts a tiny bit in the pocket, that movement is compounded by the time you get to the cam, which will start throwing left and right.
So think about a millimeter out at the bottom, what that turns out to be at the top, right? It's the old analogy of, get your, airplane gets off course just a hair, when it ends. Yeah.
After 1,000 miles, you're way
exactly.
off.
And this is in archery terms, this is 1,000 miles right here, and it can really be off. And so that's one area on bows that is overlooked, in my opinion, too often, and it's such a critical point, connection point on a bow, bringing those two things together, the limbs and the riser. So just another area in terms of toughness you can really rely on.
Yeah, I'm so Anthony just got this bow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he has the older Defiant.
Yeah.
But similar, right? So he's out there shooting it, and Anthony's my buddy. We grew up together for years, and anyway, he keeps calling me like for the last month. I just love this bow. It's just a beautiful bow. I just love this bow.
Yeah.
And he's super picky, and he's not a guy that likes, new stuff, and he's always very critical. And he's in love with it, and he's kind of like Aaron, like a true connoisseur of gear. He like analyzes it and stuff. So I'm a little overbowed right now. If you could not tell from the video. So Aaron's like, yeah, just get the 80-pound, bow, and so, and as long as I'm like shooting at the target range or whatever, I feel good, right? But when I'm like leaning sideways on a hill like this, and there's a cliff here, and so I can't draw over the top for movement, so I'm like this. That 80 pounds felt like 300 pounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's a good point, Brian. I think it's something that's really, really important, too, for people to understand. I mean, where bows are today in terms of efficiency, I mean, you don't have to shoot 80 pounds either. I mean, we have some of our pro staffers, some of our female pro staffers who are killing Yukon moose with 50-pound bows. But bows have come so far, over the past few years. And I'm with you. I mean, you're obviously a beastly guy, you got big muscles there. But and obviously you can pull 80 pounds in a normal setting on the range, right?
Yep.
But what's that situation you're going to be in the backcountry or in a tree stand or in a ground blind where you're on your
Freezing
knees?
cold.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
We've all been on our knees.
Right.
The bull elk's coming in, he's screaming, and you're already your legs asleep because you've been sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for him to come, and he arrives. And
You
you're
haven't
like,
slept in 3 days.
You haven't slept in 3
you get
days.
there not late at night. You get up at 4 in the
You're
morning.
sleeping on rocks in your
Yeah.
bivy sack, and you're just like, man, I got to make this shot.
42. Everything's sore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm not recovering.
Yeah, we've all been there. And so for me, I'd rather have that bow that I know I can pull in any position and make a confident shot.
That's really been a big deal for me. I've never done it before. I've never had a bow with that poundage. I've shot 70 for a long time. And so I've been shooting 70 and then 80, just my bow, and then this version at 70 pounds.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how different it is. That extra 10 pounds, I don't know how it equates, but it just feels completely different.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm pulling a kid's bow when I pull back 70.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
kid's bow. Like it's
Yeah.
like, boop. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is ridiculously easy.
Well,
and nothing against those that shoot 80 pounds and can do it.
Not
in
at all.
Any nothing at all. I mean, that's great. More power to him. But
like Aaron says, somebody always gets paid. So when I go up to 80, I have this more power.
Yep.
Maybe it shoots flatter, maybe it shoots more kinetic energy. I can shoot a heavier arrow and get at higher
Absolutely.
speeds.
Yep.
Right? It's got those benefits. But if I can't pull it back
Yeah.
in that moment,
Right.
on a
Doesn't
deer,
matter how fast the bow is.
and I don't need that really on a mule deer, especially,
Sure.
right? It's just way overkill. Somebody got paid, it was the ease of using the bow in a tricky position, tired and, earlier on my elk hunt, same thing happened. I got the bow back. I had a bull. It was a solid shot, 25 yards. And in a rare moment of where I wouldn't normally do this, I rested the cam down at full draw because I'm holding back a lot more tension. And that cost me the opportunity. Had I been shooting 70 or 65 or something, dude, I can hold that for ever in a different way. And
when you make that jump to 80 too, a lot of people that I've talked to in the shop, they want 80 because they want more speed. And what they don't realize is that with that, they're going to have to shoot a heavier and a stiffer spined arrow to get that. So you lose speed, but you do gain the kinetic energy. Yeah. But you also have less holding weight. So if you're used to holding 14 and a half, 15 pounds, and all of a sudden you're holding 18, 19 and a half, that's a whole different set of muscles that you have to actively use, and you're not going to be holding that bow back nearly as long, especially if you've got a bull elk walking in on you, or you're waiting for that buck to stand up and you're already at full draw, or come from behind a tree in a tree stand, especially in the cold. Yeah. So there's a lot of variables.
I've held it back, and I've timed it sitting down, kneeling, or in an awkward position, and I'm going about 2 minutes, and I'm starting to pretty much shake. Well, then I do that with 70, and I'm like, I'm not shaking. I can hold it I can hold it even longer, and then when on the release, I feel a lot better. So there's just I'm going back down.
There's a reason 70 pounds is the number one selling bow weight, right? There's a reason. That's the threshold.
And we're actually seeing a trend in our business where we offer a 65-pound option, where we're selling a lot more 65-pound option bows too. Again, as the efficiencies of the bows have gone up in efficiency, weights are coming down a little bit too. So 65 is a pretty big seller for us now as well. Because you're right, Brian. I mean, again, you're in that situation where you got that bull elk coming in screaming, you're at full draw, and you're just that 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, or 10 seconds, whatever that amount of time is that you can hold that bow longer than the heavier one could be the difference between shooting that bull or not. So
100%.
Speed doesn't do you any good if you can't get the shot off. But again, nothing. I mean, there's guys out there.
that
can manage 80 pounds. Like I manage 70 pounds.
Yeah. And Aaron's probably shooting an 80-pound recurve anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's
it's just
got to evaluate.
And Aaron, he shot 80 for a long time. Mm-hmm. And but he's been doing the recurve thing for a while, and so he pulled it back and pulled that thing, and he goes, "Whoa, dude! Either it's been a long time or 80 got heavy." You know what I mean? Like that's just it. Is if you're not shooting every day, and it's at the limit of your strength range, it becomes something that can be a more of a liability than
exactly.
than an asset.
I mean, obviously, Cameron Haynes, our dear friend Cameron Haynes, he lifts weights every single day. He shoots his bow every single day. He can manage 80 like I can manage 60, or whatever. And so for him, it's no big deal.
Exactly.
And but he's committed to be trained to do that in any setting. So
is for me, I had intentions, and I did shoot a lot, but I didn't shoot nearly that much.
Yeah.
Not every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
And especially because for us, we were moving a lot, and I'm starting this whole Gritty Bowmen thing. And so it cut into my plans a lot. But that's how I kind of feel. It's like shooting a recurve.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to jump out like Snyder and you're going to grab that Hoyt Buffalo and go out and slam a bunch of animals, you have got to practice every day.
Yeah.
I think,
for sure.
And if you're going to practice once a week, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work the same way. Mm-hmm. And so, is there a certain amount of, with 80 pounds, a little more dedication needed on my part than if I'm back down to 70.
Yeah. Yep.
And so everybody's got to do what works for them.
Yeah, for sure.
By just relating my experience.
Yeah. The other cool thing I want to touch on as it pertains to efficiency is with the new DFX cam system, which has just been so well received, super smooth, super fast. It's got the dual stop. You can, do the draw stop on the cable or have the hard locking stop on the limb, which that's personally what I run and have really, really appreciated that feature. But one of the things that Hoyt does that a lot of people don't realize, I think, is that we build a big range of cams. We don't just build one cam fit for everybody.
That's a good point.
So we maximize our cams based on draw length. And so especially as draw lengths go down, I'm a 27.5-inch draw. I got the short end of the stick as it comes to that. But my cam is fully optimized for my draw length. And I appreciate that greatly. And so as you buy a Hoyt bow, you can count on that cam being optimized for your draw length. Right. That's very rare in this industry.
Describe to people what that means, optimize for your draw length, because I think a lot of people listening don't understand what that means.
Yeah. So if you have one cam size, one big cam, and it goes from 25 to 30 pounds, the 30-inch draw length, right? So 30-inch draw length.
Draw length.
One cam that goes from 25 to 30 inches in draw length.
So you got a 5-inch adjustable cam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the guy that shoots 30 inches, he's going to get the advantage of the full rotation of that cam and get all the energy out of it.
All coming all the way back, and then it's
but as you adjust that to the shorter draw lengths, the cam's not rotating all the way anymore. So your efficiency dives down really fast.
And by efficiency, you're talking about
the energy and
energy behind the shot.
Yep, exactly.
But by what we do, what Mike was explaining, is we have a number 3 cam for 28 to 30. And then we have a number 2 cam for 26 to 28. So if you're in Mike's position, 27.5, he's now jumped from the number 3 cam to a number 2 cam, which is a smaller diameter cam.
But he gets
now he gets the full rotation and gets more speed out of it.
Get all that efficiency.
The other thing too is you got to realize that when these are in motion, when the bow's shot, these cams are in motion, right? Mm-hmm. And so the heavier the cam is, the slower the bow is going to be. So my number 2 cam that I shoot is much smaller than the number 3 cam, which is less material moving through the draw cycle and through the shot cycle. So it's a much faster cam as well. It's amazing. Even if you just add a screw, a module screw can mean maybe a half foot or a foot of speed.
Right.
And so if you think about this, if I was shooting a number 3 cam and I was just modulating down to 27.5 inches, my shot has to rotate that full large cam. And so I'm losing speed in that area as well. So again, we have a number 1 cam, number 2 cam, number 3 cams in a lot of our different cam systems. Yeah. Same thing on our target bows, where you can really maximize the speed and optimization of the rotation of the cam. And that's the key part of that I'm referring to.
That's one that Mike mentioned earlier. It's one of the the difference in the details, and that it would be way easier from a manufacturing standpoint.
Way easier
for us to have one cam size, and we could do it. Our bows could shoot that way, and we could have one cam. Only have to build one cam. Only have to inventory one cam. Only have to have part numbers for one. I mean, it just simplifies everything, but it doesn't maximize performance and give the benefit of
it's not what it's not what the bow hunter deserves or what he should be shooting. And so for us, we always err on the side of what's best for the bow hunter, what's best for the archer. And if that means that we have to increase our our manufacturing times or different things like that, then we'll do that because we want to make sure it's our brand promise. It's a Hoyt brand promise that when you get a Hoyt bow, you're going to get the best bow that money can buy and that we can build, guaranteed.
Well, and the thing that was cool last time when we were here was just touring the facility and seeing how it stacks up. I mean, it's state of the art. It's amazing. But you guys can basically, we talked about if a guy's left-handed, short draw, and a guy is right-handed and he shoots a long, you can't just produce a whole bunch of bows,
right?
Because you've got them set up so they're dialed in for a certain guy.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And so the way you guys have this place designed, you can put together a bow, custom made, in a short amount of lead time, and you build what's been ordered.
Yep.
You don't build a whole bunch of excess junk that may or may not sell.
Yep.
You guys have a facility where you can really maximize your materials and your production and just build what is being bought.
I think a great example of that, Brian, is if you go into our limb manufacturing area, when we build limbs, we keep all 4 limbs together through the entire process. So when our limb employees are building limbs, they literally are building a set of limbs for a bow, and that set of limbs are actually serial numbered. They're actually stamped and serial numbered, and they follow themselves through the entire process, all the way from raw materials, all the way through the manufacturing into paint and onto the bow. And if ever there was a need to replace a limb, let's say someone needed to replace a limb, something happens, they run it over and drop it on a rock or whatever. You need to replace one limb. We actually will replace all 4 limbs on that bow, even though the other 3 would be good. We still replace all 4 because we feel it's critical, again, that we provide the best product to the bow hunters that we can. So when you open up a box of raw material, that raw material, let's say that raw material was made in August,
right?
And there's that carbon and that glass or whatever we're building this, putting in these limbs.
Of wood,
exactly.
Not every piece of 2x4 is the same
exactly,
2x4.
Brian. So when we open that box of material, we make sure that the limbs going on a bow
stay together.
Exactly. Yeah. We never open a box of material from April, combine it with a box from August, and just mix and match and hodgepodge. That box of material, that raw material that's opened up, is always used for the same set of limbs that's going on every bow. And that's just those details that Jeremy mentioned that, again, bow hunters deserve the best. There's a lot of money in these bows, right? And we want to make sure we're providing the best there. So
that's one thing about this is the price point. It's an expensive bow, right? But what's cool about it is you buy it. I'm extremely confident it's going to last forever.
Sure.
Like with all the dry fires and all the beatings and all that stuff. So you get this smooth, incredible bow that I remember, 12 years ago having a compound, and after like 2 years, the thing was rattling and falling apart on me. Yep. It's like it just couldn't take the constant firing and the use and the abuse, and it's not shooting the same. Those days with you guys are over.
Yep, for sure.
A guy, it's good and bad for your business. Because a guy can buy one of these and be good for, 10 years. Yeah. And so you're not selling more, right? Except that bow hunters all have an addiction for
the exactly. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. We all want the latest and greatest. But it's so, and the interesting thing about that dry fire test you mentioned, it is a violent test.
Yeah, I saw the video of that.
Yeah,
recently.
And maybe before we're done here, I'll take you back there and show you the room itself, because when you see it happen in person, it is loud in there. It's loud.
The floor
it's violent.
Shaking, the walls are shaking.
Walls are shaking, and it's violent. And then you actually go into the same machine that does our cycle testing, because every bow has to do 1 million cycles after 1,500 dry fires. Okay, so the bow goes 1,500 dry fires. Then it gets put on a cycle machine. It has to be cycled 1 million times. And when you go in that room is hot. Like, it's physically hot in there because of all the energy from that bow just drawn 100 times. Mm-hmm. So, it's probably 10 to 15 degrees warmer in that room than in the outside of that room because of all the energy that's taking place through that testing. So, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fascinating when you see that.
One thing you were talking about earlier was, Evan, you were kind of touching on this with the riser being, some companies remove material, right? Mm-hmm. So this bow, you could make it lighter, but it comes at a cost where, you lose some of that stability and durability, the reliability of the bow. Aaron calls it chasing the rabbit, where people are trying to get their backpacks as light as possible. Mm-hmm. And so they get like a 40-degree bag and they're going to be hunting in 10-degree weather, but it's lighter, and he's like, and then they freeze for a week, right. He's like, there's just, sometimes when we chase lightweight, we give up way more than we should when the incremental increase in weight is a huge asset to you on the other end. So with this bow, how do you feel about its weight to asset value? Its weight to.
I personally actually wouldn't mind it being just even a touch heavier. It's a physics issue. You get too light, you start getting a lot of movement in a hold. So you have to start adding stabilizers and adding weight to slow down or produce the type of hold that you're looking for as an archer. Whereas if you have all the mass weight in a vertical plane right around your hand anyway, you're already compensating for that because you have a heavier mass weight. Therefore, you're slowing down that momentum and that movement right out of the gate. And then anytime you have extra material, if you're a firearms guy, it's equating it to a bull barrel on a rifle. A bull barrel on a rifle is a heavier material. There's more mass weight there because those guys shooting 1,000 meters and 1,000 yards and doing the silhouette stuff, they're shooting from bench rest in a lot of those different competitions where you're talking trying to shoot 1,000-yard group the size of a quarter. More material, less movement, especially out of a mechanical device. Same thing. I don't want it to move. I don't want that extra weight and that resonance, the extra resonance, and therefore I want more weight. So, and I like the carbon bows. I've shot them since 2010 when they came out, mainly because if I'm in a tree stand in Kansas where I grew up and it's the week before the rifle season in the end of November, I know it's going to be 0 degrees or worse with the wind, and I'd rather put my hand into a carbon. But I'm adding 14 ounces worth of stabilizers and weights to that carbon just to get to hold the way I want it to.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah.
I don't want any more weight.
Yeah.
Give me the bow the way it is. I'm going to put the lightest accessories on, and it's going to hold plenty good for my hunting situation.
Yeah.
Plenty good. So I'm the opposite of Evan on that.
And I am
That's
too.
how Aaron is like you, and I'm like Evan because I'm a horrible shot. So not horrible, but I feel like with a little heavier bow, I just shoot better.
Yeah.
I think if I got better, if I became a better shot than the weight in the state. So I add weight. So I'm like, I don't really go for the carbon because then I'm going to add a bunch of weight to it. But like I have other buddies that are like the opposite, like you guys.
Yeah. And that's how I am too. I'm with Jeremy. I mean, give me that lightest bow.
The whole point is to have it lightweight.
Yeah. And that's what's cool. I mean, the new Pro Defiance comes in at 4.2 pounds. Obviously the Carbon Defiance, at 3.6. And so there's a big weight difference there, right? A big weight difference. And for me, I mean, I love that carbon bow. I love that lightweight.
It just feels like a feather, dude.
It's nice, huh?
Yeah. Super lightweight. Warm to the touch. Obviously, carbon conducts.
Is so warm.
Conducts. Heat, and so you appreciate that. Yeah. You can feel it even in this room temperature.
If you're in a tree stand, that's crazy warm.
Yeah. Feel that again. I mean, now that you've felt both those, and that's just in room temperature.
That's just weird.
Yeah. And so it's there. That's a huge advantage.
The thermal regulation properties of carbon.
Yeah. Because it can suck the life out of you if you're in a tree stand or sitting there and it might sound like a small thing, but again, it's the details, right? You put a carbon bow in your hand, you're not going to be, sucking the life out of you with that cold riser. And so, so there's obviously advantages to both. But the other thing I want to touch on with the talking about the riser too, that again is a detail. So it would be really easy for us to. I mean, I think sometimes people look at the Tech riser and just think, oh, it's just for looks. Well, it's not. I mean, obviously. Personally, in my opinion, I think it makes the bow look better aesthetically. Personally,
it's a cool bow.
But it actually functions. There's a function to it, and as a bow is shot, as a bow is drawn, obviously there's a ton of energy put into that bow. As that bow is fired, that energy has to go to one place, right? It's got to go to one place, and it's the grip. And if you think about the grip of a bow, it's in the center of the bow, or in most cases, very very close to the center of the bow. So if you were to take and this is quite a distance here, in the grand scheme of things. If you were to take a paper clip and start bending it on the ends start bending it, where's it going to break? Or where's all the energy going to come? right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? We've all
Yeah.
done that as kids, right? In school, you find the old paper clip and you
Oh,
sit
yeah.
there and go back and
Cannibalize
forth, and it gets hot, and you feel it.
Yep.
You know, it's like, oh, and it breaks right in the middle.
Yep.
Well, that's what's happening when the bow's being shot. Is all that energy is translating through the riser from top to bottom, and so it all crashes in the middle of the bow. Well, the widest point on a Hoyt bow is right here in the center at the tech riser.
Right.
And so what this also does, it allows the energy to transfer from the grip through the tech riser and down through the riser. So you get
It goes around the grip.
Yeah, around the grip.
Goes around the grip.
So
less
it allows
vibration.
for another channel of that vibration to channel around the grip and through the riser rather than right to your hand. And so you can feel that in vibration and in consistency and stability and ultimately accuracy. And so, but the one thing I want to touch on, it would be, there's nothing cheap about building a tech riser. Okay, this is the most expensive riser we can build. Why? Because it has a ton more material. If you think about a non-tech riser, I mean, you're only dealing with material that's, it's half the size in some cases of the piece of aluminum
you're right.
that we have to start with.
We buy a bigger piece and we have
Just
more
this little
scrap.
piece of aluminum.
Yeah.
So it's just a little piece of aluminum, but on a tech riser, you have to start with a much larger piece of raw material. And that's expensive. Raw material is extremely expensive. Then you have additional machining too. That takes a lot more time to machine a tech riser than it does a non-tech riser. And but again, we believe that the benefits of that are great to the bow hunter and the archer because of what it does from a consistency and accuracy. The other thing that we do here that that again is in the details is we have an intense buffing process. I mean, when this bow comes off a machine, it's done being machined, but then it has to go through a whole buffing process. So one thing you'll notice on a Hoyt bow is all the corners are rounded.
Yeah.
Right? It would be really easy for us to do a 45-degree cut up this riser and just do a 45-degree cut. A 45-degree
in the CNC machine.
in the CNC machine wouldn't require any hand buffing. But in our machine shop, we have rooms full of professional buffers who literally going through and buffing every one of these edges, hand buffing and getting all this fine tuned and detailed out. So again, I appreciate that as a consumer too, buying a high piece of quality product that also looks good and performs better.
And the round edge is stronger than a corner. If you think about in your driveway, your cracks in your driveway always start on the corners. And so if we did that 45-degree angle on the riser, it leaves corners, which is a weak spot where a crack can start. So not only does it look awesome to round all the corners, but it actually adds strength to the riser.
A lot stronger. Yeah. Anytime you round something, you can, having that sharp corner, that's where they, that can start cracking or have fault in it. So, but again, just another one of those details that is, critical. Another one that I think is one of the greatest inventions for the compound bow is this ZT cable guard bar, this zero torque cable guard bar, and it's a very difficult thing to understand. But when you do understand it, it's fascinating. It's really cool. So the ZT cable guard bar is actually connected at the rear of the unit back here, right? So most roller guards would end right here, right? So when you flex it would actually flex from here and come inward. Right. So if the flexing arm was connected to the front of the bow and it flexed with this, it's coming along with it. It's coming along with the rollers and inducing torque at the same time the rollers are inducing torque. Does that make sense? Yeah. So by actually reversing this and putting the connection point on the outside, furthermost outer part of this zero torque cable guard system, it actually creates a counter torque going in the opposite direction. So as the bow is pulled and these rollers are coming inward and this arm is flexing inward, the pressure on this arm here is pushing in the opposite direction.
It's on a little rocker, like a teeter-totter.
Yeah.
So as it goes that way, the back end has to go the other way.
It's pushing this way. And so that's actually, so as that pushes that way, it's literally zeroing out the torque. Because one of the inherent problems with a compound bow is getting these cables out of the way, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can't shoot a compound with them in the center of the string. You just can't. So obviously you got to get those out of the way, and then that induces torque into the riser. So as that bow is pulled, it's torquing the bow. But our zero torque cable guard system, which is actually patented, we patented this technology, is actually putting a force in the opposite direction, literally zeroing out the torque in the system.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
Cool. I remember the old school ones.
Yeah.
And I had this bow that just had a metal rod that popped out.
Yep. Yeah.
And it had a little plastic
little slider
thing that hooked on and it
Yep.
just slid on that
Yep.
thing.
And so is
And,
that sliding? It's just wanting to pull those. It's pulling those cables. It's just wanting to torque the bow in a big
My
time
dad
way.
shoots this buck and like cuts it across the neck, and he's like, "What that?" And it made this loud noise. He's
Yeah.
like, "What happened?" Loads another arrow and it's in a tree stand. It's like 20 yards. He misses again. I'm like, dude, my dad's choking. He's choking. And he gets the third arrow on and he hits it. Not great, but it goes, beds down, and it dies. But we had to wait like 30 or 40 minutes. And he was just like, man, I don't know what happened. He's all in his head. And I'm looking at his bow and just kind of turning it. And I'm like, it was loud, you know? And then sure enough, that plastic bushing had just broke. So the cables were just in the way.
Oh, no.
And so each time, I think he just got lucky on that third arrow with the fletching or whatever. The arrow just kind of slipped by it, just because by chance.
Yep.
But I'm like, that is not a well-designed system.
Yeah.
Right? And that wasn't that long ago.
It
by the
wasn't.
way.
Yeah. Not at all.
And when that happened, and it wasn't a Hoyt, but when that happened, it was like, evidently, I went to the shop and they're like, oh, yeah, that happens. Here's a box of like more of these. You just slip them on. I'm like, no, it can't just happen.
Yeah.
Like, it just happened right at that critical moment where a great buck came in. You can't just have that happen. That's one thing that gets me. It's like somebody will say, this company has a great warranty. Look, dude, that's great, but I don't ever want to use the warranty.
Exactly.
If it's not that good of a product and it's just a warranty, it doesn't help me when that elk walks by and it costs me that opportunity, right?
Yeah, when you're 9 miles deep on a backcountry elk hunt, do it yourself, and you have one bow in your hand and your bow fails you, that warranty's wortherless.
Totally.
Worthless.
Completely useless at that point.
Worthless.
I'm ready to come back and kill someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, I really love that it's built like this, that you got that much detail in there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's solid. I mean, that's one thing that's just reliable.
Yep. The other thing, and I know a lot of bows have we call ours the stealth shot. A lot of people don't maybe understand what this does. Not only does it help with noise, but as that arrow is released off the string and that hits against that stealth shot, it just creates a much cleaner release of the arrow. If you've ever seen a bow being shot on a high-speed camera, and that string, it's incredible what goes on a bow when it's shot. It's like, holy cow, is that really going on?
Yeah.
So as that string comes in and connects with that stealth shot, it creates a real crisp release of the knock off the string,
so
rather than it coming forward.
There's like a rod that coming out that's stopping the string.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a little rubber bumper that stops the string on the release. So that
because normally if you picture what the string would do when you shoot it, it doesn't stop at brace height. It goes way past brace height before the arrow comes off. Yeah.
So that stops it.
Quicker.
Quicker.
Exactly.
Gets
Just
the
a
arrow
real
off the
clean
string.
release of the
So it
arrow.
adds a lot of forgiveness because that arrow's coming off the string sooner. So it's less susceptible to any mistakes
When
you're
you torque
making
it.
with your bow hand.
Yeah.
So it adds a lot of forgiveness.
Speaking of the forgiveness too, the other nice thing about the cam and a half system is the top and bottom cam are fused together with one cable. So if you see this cable here that is connected to the bottom cam here, right? So it's impossible for the top and bottom cam to fire on at different times. So in a lot of other systems, what cam can get ahead of one or the other, and fire ahead of one another. But on the cam and a half, they fire at the exact same time every time. You can count on that because they have to. They're slaved together. They're fused together with the one system. So that's another, I think, really cool technology built into our our cam and a half system, patented cam and a half system.
You mentioned this other bow. You got, and I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, this is another bow we came out with for 2017. It's called the Double XL, and it's built for tall, big guys with long draw lengths who have always had trouble finding a bow to fit them. This will go up to 33 inches in draw length. And,
Dude, that's like an orangutan.
Starts at 31.
Yeah. So from 31 to 33 inches.
There's some people right there that are just worshiping, like dancing a happy dance.
No doubt.
Oh, yeah.
But again, they deserve the best. You mentioned it earlier. We build a lot of different bows. We have a lot of different models. We got the 30.5 inch, we got the 34 inch, got a turbo. Now we got the double XL. Go down the line on all our target bows, very specific bows. But that bow is built specifically for those larger statured bow hunters, and they're out there. There's a lot of them, and they deserve the best bow they can get.
Why this bow? Why not just try to make this Pro Defiant work?
Well,
Evan can answer this probably better than the rest of us, but if you take, again, it goes back to the efficiency of the cams. If we're just trying to cheat more draw length out of a cam, it gets the harness gets looser, especially at full draw. It's really loose on the back end and you can't pull tight.
Well, the other thing too is, you gotta get that distance somewhere, right? That draw length has to come from somewhere. This is a 30.5-inch bow right here.
Right.
It physically cannot. You can't get that draw length out of that. So if you look at that riser of the double XL, significantly taller. Yeah, significantly taller. It's a 36
for a big man.
It's a 36.5-inch axle bow versus a 30.5. And so that lengthens the riser.
Length.
Yep, exactly. And then it actually has an 8-inch brace height, which I think a
get
lot
magic out of the blood out of a turnip.
That's right, exactly. And with that 8-inch brace height too, it's going to be a really forgiving bow because at 33 inches, 70 pounds with that bow, it's firing arrows at 340 feet per second. At 70 pounds, yeah. And so with an 8-inch brace height, so the 8-inch brace height also is going to give that larger statured bow hunter or archer more forgiveness as well. And so that's all engineered specifically for that long draw archer. And now they have a bow, the best bow money can buy for them, because otherwise they're making stuff up in a lot of cases, or in a shorter bow than they should be.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. We have a few staffers that have been through that are that 32.5-inch draw length guy, and they are just stoked out of their minds.
Oh, yeah.
They're
so
really
pumped. They're so pumped.
You build it for
Big
me.
time.
So
when we
awesome.
launched it on social media and we put it up and put the specs up, it was surprising how many guys like, finally a bow for me, or tagging their friend, hey, a bow for you.
Yeah.
Those guys are out there, and I don't know what they've been shooting, but it hasn't been ideal for them. And now there's a bow that's made just for their draw length.
Yeah, it's kind of good being 5'10".
Yeah.
90 pounds. It's like right there.
Everything fits.
It's easy to find boots, easy to find bows.
Yeah.
It's kind of a good average size.
Yeah. The other cool thing, grab that 34 right there, Jer. That right there.
Right
yeah.
there.
So this is this is a 34. So this is another category that we're selling a lot of bows of. I just think this bow is so
That's pretty.
beautiful. It looks
So
like
I
a
have
Ferrari.
the Defiant 34.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you should have 34, Brian. Exactly. And so, some people want a longer axle bow, and
awesome.
and so here's a 34 version of our Pro Defiant. Obviously, it's got the red target finish on it. That I think just looks so hot, but
It's like a race car.
yeah,
And it is
Ferrari.
the limb is an automotive paint they were using,
Yeah.
so it's a high quality performance paint.
It's cool.
I just can't stop looking at this bow. We've had it on set in here. We were doing a video of it, and I just sat there and just stared at it like. It was just so awesome. The other cool thing, though, as it pertains to draw length and axle, is if hold that, Jerry. If you with the DFX cam, it's actually as you pull the cam back, the string angle is actually, see how much higher it's coming off the top of the cam there.
Yeah.
So the effective string position is actually increased significantly, making it act and feel like a longer axle bow. So a 30.5-inch Pro
see.
Defiant is actually going to be similar to a 34
It's longer.
axle bow. Exactly. And a 34 is going to act more like a 37. Even though you get the compact nature of a 30.5 bow, it's going to have the string, the forgiving string position and peat position of a 34-inch bow. And a 34, like you're shooting, is going to act like a 37. I think that's another overlooked really cool technology that you'll find on our Pro Defiant series and our Carbon Defiant series as well, is that effective string position.
Yeah, allows you to have such a more comfortable position at full draw. You're not having to reach your nose to the string or dip your head down to see through your peep.
Yeah.
You can keep upright, keep a good posture, and make a great shot because you're not reaching your head.
Yeah.
So
As that string's coming off steeper, it forces you to get your head position in a more unnatural position. As it comes off more broad, it's bringing
like
a peak
right in
to your
front of
eye.
my eye.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah,
keep that
just right there.
your neck up in the right position. So
And a lot of people don't realize when you start tipping that head down, what happens is your eye is no longer looking through the center of that socket. So anytime you add any kind of extra strain, if you're looking downhill and trying to, heads down, but now I'm looking up here, I'm adding strain. And same way if I do this and try and look down and see the floor. Well, what that does is that is actually reducing the amount of oxygen and oxygenated blood to my eye. So what the brain is being told that it's seeing and what it's actually seeing starts causing a delay. And the longer you put your eye in that situation, the slower that delay becomes.
Got it.
And you're going to be in a situation where, all right, I've been holding back for a minute and a half or a minute 40, and all of a sudden I get to take that shot, and I've been straining, trying to look through and keep my head in and get ready for that shot. And all of a sudden, there it is, boom, and I shoot low, I shoot high. Something happens because you thought your pin was here, and in reality, because of that delay, your pin is under or your pin is over. There's movement going on that you weren't able to see. So.
Yeah. The other cool thing too, just in terms of consistency and accuracy, is our strings that are all built right here in our
we
factory.
talked about that before.
Did you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's key, I think, because a lot of guys are like, I'm going to get the new bow, and the first thing they want to do is put new strings on it.
Yeah.
And the way you guys manufacture the strings here is on a level of perfection.
It is. Yeah. It really is. All built by our manufacturing engineering team. As those
meant to be top of the line, meant to not be replaced.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're fused custom strings made out of BCYX material, top quality material. As the strings are being, as they're being built, they're pulled to hundreds of pounds of tension, so you get all that string creep out. And I'm really proud of our strings. Some of our top shooters have won Vegas or World Cup. With our strings, they're not even replacing the strings. So you also know when you're getting a Hoyt bow, you're getting top quality strings for sure. So that's another great component of the bows.
Well, I'm always impressed. Every time I come to Hoyt and I walk around and I meet everybody and hang out and then take a look at the bows and learn more about them, I'm always impressed. The factory you guys have here is, it's pretty incredible. So I want to kind of go around, any last words, anything you want to throw in here, Evan, that now's your chance. But
I'm the quiet one of the group. I'm okay with that. Everybody knows it, too. Unless you're in Colorado Springs, I'm sure you would say otherwise.
You had something for
Snyder. I do want to...
the right comment hasn't come up, and I'm trying to figure out how to worm it in there.
I was going to say, we're going to have to get Snyder back and maybe talk some buffaloes and rickers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because that's a whole another animal.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, it's a fast-growing segment, too. Aaron is out there shooting and loving it, and a lot of guys are finding that same thing. I'm going to try this, and then they fall in love with it. And
it's really fun.
Yeah.
And then it's really frustrating.
It's
fun on the range, and then it's frustrating in the woods.
Yeah, I have so much respect for those bow hunters that are committed to the recurve, man. I mean, Matt Davis, he used to work for us. He, works for Mountain Ops now. He's committed to that trad bow, and he drew a very coveted Utah elk tag, and I was convinced he was going to be setting up a compound. He's like, nope, I'm taking the buffalo. I'm like, more power to you, buddy. And he could have come off that mountain with a, real trophy bull. But, for him, he, unfortunately, he wasn't able to harvest a bull, but he certainly has opportunities,
And it's like that.
Well, he didn't have his, I don't want to make it sound like he missed any shots. I don't know if he had any opportunities.
Yeah.
With a compound, he would have had some opportunities.
Completely.
But man, he stayed true to that recurve. So.
I've seen him shoot at 90 yards with that thing.
Me too.
I don't think he had an opportunity.
Yeah, me too.
How far was Aaron's shot up in Ken on the mule deer?
38 yards.
Cool. That's a poke.
Drilled it.
Yeah.
That's pretty dang good.
So
That's
his point on is 38 yards.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So that's money spot.
Wait for it.
So he's like, he's walking in on it, and I'm flagging him into the, I'm like 1,400 yards away, on this slope. He's right above you. No, go right. No, go left. And anyway, he's creeping in, and I see with Aaron, you can just like a dog on point. Like he locks on. I know he's seen it, and he is just like a predator, and he's moving in. He's got the bow out. Well, he's like, well, Brian, I know if I walk to 38 yards, all I got to do is put my point on, and I'm going to hit as long as I execute my shot.
Yeah,
right.
Cool.
The aiming part is not as he's not gap shooting, right?
Yeah.
He's point on. Gives him a lot more confidence. So that's right in his wheelhouse where he can really. He just feels good at that yardage. Real good. When he's at 20, he's gap shooting. He's guessing a little bit. Can't put the point right on. So he actually would prefer at times to just shoot 38 over 20.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And so that was just the perfect situation. It was a bedded buck, and he crept over the hill and he shot. And here's the thing: I'm a long way away, right? You'd almost think that I couldn't see the arrow fly. Like if he shot a compound, I don't think I'd see the arrow from that distance. I've got binos up and I'm watching, but still, he's way out there. He shoots that recurve, and I swear it's like it's like throwing a stick down the hill. Like it just goes so much slower than a compound, right? And it's zipping through the air, but you're just like, it's like an Indian over there. It's really like,
I think it's gonna hit.
Yeah, like
it's
I'm
gonna
like,
hit.
I think I said he just shot, and it's still in the air when I say that, right? Like, no, it's a really neat experience to be with him and see him, and it's really pushed him as a hunter to go to another level, and that buffalo has been, fun. He's got a few of them, right? And he paints them all different colors, and he's got two that he's really tried to dial into each other so they shoot exactly the same, just in case something goes wrong. He's got a backup. He's a big, plan for contingencies, military kind of guy. So I'm more like all eggs in one basket. Keep our fingers crossed.
Well, one thing I'd say too, I mean, if, for those out there listening, I mean, for those of us that just, shoot compound, and that's what we love to shoot. And I'm not going to be hunting with a recurve anytime soon. I still have some things I want to do with the compound, a lot of things I want to do with the compound. But I would still suggest, man, just go get a recurve bow and just shoot a recurve. Go out and just stump shoot. Go take it camping. Go have fun. It is so fun.
It's so much fun.
We do a little trad event here with some of our every once in a while, and it's just a ball. It's just a blast because with a compound, it's like I got to hit this. If I don't hit that, then I'm frustrated.
Yep.
But with a recurve, doesn't matter, right? Just go let the arrows,
There's a certain level of fun that happens whenever the recurve is present.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, Aaron, can you hit that?
Yeah.
Can you hit that? And he's shooting everything.
Yeah.
Small game, a lot.
Yeah.
And we eat a lot of it.
That's the other thing that's amazing is what the human can do with a recurve when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I was camping with my son. He was really young, and I took a recurve out there, and there was a squirrel up on a tree. I mean, it was like 35 yards or something. But I didn't even think about it. It was like I had a quick shot, and I just pinwheeled that squirrel up against a tree, and my son was just freaking out, and I was like, oh, but I didn't have time to think about it, right?
Just total instinct.
Total instinct. But it also goes back to compound. When we start thinking about it, that's when we really start screwing things up. And so, that's what's fascinating about the recurve is the human mind can do amazing things when it comes to like human instinct stuff. Yeah. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool.
100%. And
pretty fascinating.
Aaron's a student of all that, so it's been fun. Yeah. He shot a squirrel too. Technically out of season, and we ate it and put a YouTube video up, and we're like, oops, because we read the regs and we just misread them, and so you can hunt them with falcons on the first,
not buffaloes,
but you can't shoot them with, can't shoot them with a bow for another few weeks. So it was like, oh man, so we just called Fish and Game, and he fell on his sword and just was like, I totally messed that up. I'm sorry, and, just all voluntarily, he just wanted to make it right. And they were like laughing at him. And they were super cool, and they just gave him a warning, and they talked about it. So we've actually been talking about.
Come out and investigate.
Yeah, seriously. It's funny because he's on the phone. He's like, where's the carcass? And Aaron's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I need to confiscate the carcass. And Aaron's like, we ate it. So, no, but so it's important, kids out there, you read the regs.
Follow the regs.
But you walk around, and I just kind of thought, being not an official squirrel hunter, that it was like
open season.
Yeah, it's like it's just a squirrel, right? Yeah. It's like a tree rat. You just But apparently, like Steven Ranella has shown, they're legit meals.
Oh,
they're like a thing that you hunt,
big
like
time.
ducks and anything else and stuff. So there's a season, and anyway, but that recurve just makes all that stuff, shooting grouse and stuff. It's just neat, and I think it's great with kids.
Yeah,
you take kids out there, and you're just winging arrows. It gets them hooked on archery.
Yep. And you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah,
you don't have to hit this. You can go hit this and still have fun. So It's cool. So,
well, guys, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
tons.
thank you.
And as always, it's a pleasure.
no, we really appreciate it. And we just appreciate everyone out there who trusts Hoyt. And I just promise you, we're going to continue to do all that we can to build the very best bows in the world. And just appreciate it. We just love our those that support Hoyt and shoot Hoyt. And we're really grateful for all of them. So thank you. Thanks
All
for
right,
being here.
Mike,
Yeah,
stay
see you,
gritty.
man. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
How we do over there, Chad? Good. Okay, Gritty friends, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. We love reading your reviews. And connect with us on social media if you're on there. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can receive notifications when we upload new videos. We've got a sweet deal with Mountain Ops. You get 20% off on all Mountain Ops supplements, combo packs, and apparel when you type in the word Gritty at checkout. If you're a hardcore elk hunter, or you want to be, go to the Elk 101 website online and check them out. Our friend Corey Jacobson is killing it with some of the best elk hunting information and entertainment on the web. All right, friends, let me leave you with one other quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things." We all have a choice. We can be people who do things, or people who criticize the work of others. It's pretty simple, really. Get out there and do your thing. Good luck on your hunts, and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.